Subscribe Sir Derwin.
This one, before we proceed to our lesson, let me ask you this question, class. What do you see in our school or in the classroom that can be considered as an asset? I know that you are familiar of the different uh, parts or in our school environment in our school that can be considered as an assets. Yes, Steven, you raise your hand.
Sir, books.
Okay, very good. Books can be considered as one of the asset in our school. Okay, books. How about other things in our school aside from books? Anyone? Yes, Kenneth.
Mga groups po, gaya po ng SSG.
Yes, again, pardon.
Groups po, gaya po ng SSG.
Groups, okay, it can be considered according to Kenneth, supreme student government or the people in the organization. Yes, it could be. They can be considered as an assets. Okay, how aside from books, aside from the people in the supreme student government SSG, other one. Yes, another answer from Jed.
Sir, school supplies po.
Okay. Another example that can be considered as an assets are the school supplies. Yes. Later we will analyze your answer if your answer could be the possible answer for this question. Okay, next, another question, class. What do you need to purchase if you will be putting up a business or someday, for example, class, I know someday or your parents are planning to start a business. Do you think, class, what do you need to purchase if you will plan to start a business? Yes, Steven again.
Sir, equipment.
Okay, very good. Equipments. Yes. Aside from equipments, how about my other students? Yes, Kay.
Land po.
Land. It is possible that if you plan to have a business someday, you can buy land. It could be. Yes. It, how about equipments, land? What are the other things to consider in putting up a business or in planning to put a business someday? Yes? Anyone? Yes, Kenneth again.
Materials po.
Okay, very good. Materials of your business. Okay, could be materials or supplies, equipments, and land. Okay, those are the examples of the things you need to purchase if you will stop putting up a business. Why I am asking this class? Because today our lesson can be considered based on the questions a while ago, based on the different types of vaccines that we are talking a while ago. Any idea, do you think, class, what is our lesson for this day? Anyone? Anyone? Do you think, class, what is our lesson for today? Anyone? Let me see in the chat box. Yes, Jed, you raise your hand. Do you think what is our lesson for today?
Sir, elements of accounting po.
Okay, very good. It could be based on our question a while ago. I know that in our subject is fundamentals of accountancy, business and management one. We are dealing with accounting. At a while ago, we are talking about the different types because according to Jed about accounting, again, Jed, what is your answer about accounting? Yes, Jed?
Accounting elements po.
about accounting elements. To be exact, thank you, Jed. To be exact, our lesson is about, let us check, is about the types of major accounts. It could be considered as the elements in accounting. Why? Uh, in the types of major accounts, today we will learn the different types of major accounts in accounting. But before learning those different types of accounts, we have our learning objectives for today, which is to identify the different types of major accounts, cite examples of each types of major accounts used in accounting. And then the last part is to classify the types of major accounts in the activity correctly. Later in our activity, you will be classifying the types of major accounts. Okay, now it is the time for you to know what are the different types of major accounts. Okay, in class. First type of major accounts, number one is assets. Anyone who can read what is assets and who can give his or her idea what is assets? Anyone, just raise your hand if you want to answer. Anyone? Yes, Kenneth.
Assets are the resources owned and controlled by the firm. Para po sa akin, assets din po can come into tangible and intangible forms.
Okay, thank you, Kenneth. According to Kenneth, assets are the resources owned and controlled by the firm. Or remember, class, when we say assets, remember all the resources owned by the owner or owned by the business or businessman. Um, that can be considered as an assets. He also mentioned about the tangible and intangible because remember, class, assets can be has two types of assets. It could be current and non-current assets. Remember, class, that there are assets that can be realized. When we say a realized, class, these assets can be collected, can be sold, or can be used 1 year after year-end date. Remember, these assets, class, can be realized. While the non-current assets, these are the assets that cannot be realized after 1 year. Remember, the examples, class, of as current and non-current assets. I know you are familiar with the cash, accounts receivable, merchandise inventory, and supplies. Okay. Remember, class, cash it is the money on hand. If you plan to start a business someday, it is very important that you have cash on hand. Cash is an example of current assets. While this accounts receivable, class, these are the amounts due from the customers arising from the credit sales or the credit services. While the notes receivable, these are the amounts due from the client supported by a promissory note. Yeah, remember, class, the inventory or the merchandise inventory, these are the assets held for resale. This can be considered merchandise inventory can be considered as the supplies or the items purchased by an enterprise which are unused for reporting date. While the non-current, based on your answer a while ago, class, the non-current assets, based on your answers, land or the property, plant, and equipment can be considered as the non-current assets, such as the building, the equipment, and the furniture in your business. That are examples of the non-current assets. It is clear, class, about the assets. Uh, you can use the thumbs up in your button in your device if you agree, if it is clear about assets. Remember, anything of value that is owned by the owner or by any resources that is owned by the owner is considered as an assets. Remember, one of the types of major accounts is assets. Okay? It is clear, class. Now we will proceed to the next type of asset. Next, next type of major accounts. Okay. The next type of major account is liabilities. Anyone who has an idea what is liabilities based on the definition, class? Any idea or ideas about liabilities? Um, if your family has business, or if you're planning to have a business someday, uh, do you think what is liabilities in accounting or in a business? What is liabilities? Anyone? Yes, just raise your hand if you want to share or to answer this question. If you want to share about liabilities. Anyone? Yes, any volunteer, class? Yes, Jed.
Sir, yung liability po sa Tagalog po, considered po siya as mga utang.
Okay, thank you, Jed. According to Jed, liabilities in Tagalog term, according to him, liabilities are in Tagalog term utang. Remember, class, in the business, if you have assets, there are also liabilities. When we say liabilities, class, these are the obligations. According to Jed, in Tagalog, it is utang. These are the obligations, not only utang, these are obligations by the business owners from the past events which are to be settled in the future. Remember, class, liabilities, these are the obligations or these are the dues arising from the past events. Like from assets, liabilities has also two types of liabilities, which is the current and the non-current liabilities. Remember, class, current liabilities, these liabilities can be paid or recognized as revenue after 1 year. Okay. This includes the accounts payable, utilities payable, or the unearned income. This one, class, accounts payable, these are the amounts due or payable to the suppliers or suppliers for the goods purchased on account or for the services received on account. While the notes payable, class, also an example of current liabilities. While on this, the notes payable, these are the amounts due to the third party supported by the promissory note. While in the non-current liabilities, class, these are the liabilities that do not fall due within 1 year. For example, your obligations, your dues after a year. For example, the long-term investments. Okay, for the long-term loans, mortgage payable, you borrowed amount of money by, these are the borrowed amount of money from the business from his or her third-party creditors. Okay, non-current after 1 year, current liabilities within 1 year. The owner can pay his or her liabilities within a year, can be considered as current liabilities. While in the non-current liabilities, he or she, the owner, can pay after a year. Is it clear, class? Do you agree? Okay? Okay. Now, let's proceed to the next type of major account. Okay. The next is the equity or the owner's equity class. It is the residual interest in the assets of the enterprise after deducting all its liabilities. Okay. The two familiar accounts under this equity or owner's equity class in our subject accounting, you will be encountered account titles such as a capital and drawing. Capital, as I said a while ago, class, if you are planning to have a business someday, it is very important to have a capital. When we say capital, class, these are the value of cash or the assets invested in the business by the owner of the business. While the drawing, the drawing account her class in the equity and owner's equity, this is an account debited for the assets withdrawn. Yan, withdrawal o withdrawn by the owner for personal use from the business. Capital and drawing are examples of owner's equity or equity accounts. Remember that first three: assets, liabilities, equity, and owner's equity. Okay, now let's proceed, class, to the next types of major accounts, which is the revenue or income. When we say revenue or income, class, it is the increase in the economic benefits during the accounting period, or these are the increase in the transaction, class. It is in a form of inflows or cash or other assets or decreases of liabilities that result in increase in equity. Remember that, class, in accounting, the most commonly used revenue account is the sales. Okay? Revenue, class, again, this is the increase in the resources resulting from the performance of service or selling of goods. Okay. Also, another example, aside from sales, the service fees or the professional fees being rendered by the professionals. For example, in the service business, the professionals such as the barbers, laundry, the professional fees being paid for them, or examples of revenue or income. Okay? Also, the interest income. Okay, class, that is the another types of major accounts. The last one, types of major accounts is expenses. I know that in every business, if there are assets, there are liabilities, there are owners equity, there are revenue or income, there always an expenser. There is always an expenses. When we say expenses, class, these are the decreases in economic benefits or in the transactions. Example of this are the utilities expense, the salaries expense, or the wages or the salaries of the employees. Also the supplies and the tax or the licenses of your business. Okay? Remember, class, uh, wages or the salaries of your employee refers to the cost incurred associated with the services rendered normally by the contractual or the temporary employees or your workers. Okay? Those are the 5 major accounts, class. Now, my question is, what are the different types of major accounts that we discussed a while ago? Anyone who can identify or who can give his or her answer? What are the different types of major accounts? Yes, based on yes, Jed, you raise your hand. Just give me one.
Owner's equity.
Yes, very good. First is owner's equity. Next, also raise his hand, Kenneth.
Asset po.
Okay, another example is assets. How about Steven?
Sir, liability.
Liability or liabilities. Yes, those are the first three. How about the 2 remaining types of major accounts? Anyone? How about others? Let me see. Anyone in my class? What are the 2 remaining major accounts? Anyone on the class? Let me check. Yes, Kay.
Expenses.
Expenses, very good. And then the last one. Again, this last type of major account, under this one is the most commonly used revenue account, the sales. Sales fall under what type of major accounts? Yes, Jed, you raise your hand again.
Income po or revenue.
Yes, very good. The last major account is the income or revenue. Yes, very good. This one. Assets, liabilities, owner's equity, then revenue or income. Okay. Another one question. How about this one? Who can give me, class, an example of title accounts or account titles under each major account? For example, under asset, any type of or account titles that fall on assets or any account titles that fall on liabilities. Anyone? And for any one example of each account, just give me one. For example, how about asset? Let me check. Yes, Kenneth.
Accounts receivable po.
What major accounts receivable, Paul?
Under assets po.
Accounts receivable under asset. Do you agree, Kenneth's answer? Accounts receivable fall on assets. Do you agree, anyone? You can
Yes.
answer?
Opo.
Yes, correct. Thank you. Yes, accounts receivable is under assets. Very good, Kenneth. How about another example? Choose any of these 5 major accounts. What account titles under this one? Yes, Clark, you raise your hand.
Sir, cash po under assets.
Okay, yes, very good. Thank you, Clark. Cash is also under assets. How about, let me see, how about under owner's equity? Those I gave 2 examples or account titles under the owner's equity. The major account, owner's equity. Yes, Jed, again.
Drawing po.
Drawing. One of those is drawing. Very good. Okay, too much with that. Now let's proceed to our activity. Are you ready, class?
Please subscribe Sir Derwin.